Hey guys, Isaac here. Isaac. Today we're going to be doing a still life, which you saw in the intro. Yeah, we're going to be starting off with a sketch right now. I sped it up to 2 times the speed because it's really boring, at least to me. But it has a lot of value, actually, because sometimes you might not know what a proportional divider is, which is what I'm using right now to make the angles. Right now I'm measuring the angles. So on my side I have the example that was in the intro. I have a picture of it on my iPad, and what I'm doing right now is I'm measuring the angle of the cup, the red cup. What I do is I keep one of the legs straight and I move the other, I'm just gonna call it leg, to match the angle. So right now I'm trying to demonstrate. I keep one of them straight and I start moving the other to match the line that I want to make the angle. So when I translate it back onto my page, all I have to do is keep the first leg straight, and I make marks or a whole line if I want to along the other one. So just before this you saw me put 3 marks. So let's say over here I wanted to make the same line. I would make a mark at the beginning, in the middle, at the end. And over here now I'm going to start doing the back of lips, or the front line as well. What I do here, I just put a guiding line that represents the middle of the cup, and that supposedly helps me to make the ellipse for the back. Over here I'm putting where the boundary is. I'm using the grid that I made to mark where the edge of the cup is, the edge of the curve. So over here you see that's a little bit messy. It doesn't have to be perfect, because that's a good thing with painting, that you can just bump it, move stuff. It's not always doesn't turn out the same. So now I start with the front ellipse. And over here you see that I made a mark that represents where the other side of the ellipse stops. So that line kind of gives me the 2 lines that are perpendicular. They're just guiding lines. But the marks are where I'm actually going to put line stroke through. So I have to make sure that guiding line tells me where my marks are going to be. They're going to be proportional to that guiding line. They're going to be the same distance away from the left and right. They're going to be the same distance away from top and bottom. Now over here I'm going to start drawing the vase. So I just put a mark of where I'm using the grid. This is where I'm using the grid instead of guidelines. I use the grid to tell me, like, okay, the edge of the vase goes through the 3rd box about halfway, and it reaches to the top about halfway. Maybe a little bit over halfway, but I think you get it. And of course I just draw a simple ellipse, not really using guiding lines because it's a little bit too small for any mistakes to be noticed. And notice over here that I don't make a full ellipse going around it, because it's important in painting to also draw what you see and not what you think you see. So you know that, like, yeah, there's an ellipse that is the rim, but you don't necessarily want to draw what you think. You don't necessarily want to draw the rim. You want to draw the shadows that get cast by the rim. You want to draw the inside of it, like I'm doing right here, where I'm drawing and another kind of semi-ellipse where it represents the inside of the vase. And right now I'm just drawing the shadows being cast by the wind. And you see how it instantly pops out of the paper. Makes you know that, like, yes, there is a hole in this vase, and that is the shadow that's being cast over it. Over here, I'm just doing the lines for the background, keeping it messy, keeping it loose. The way I do that is to make sure I have a far away grip on my pencil. I always hold it from the back, as you should do with your brushes as well. Holding it from the back just so you don't make straight lines, you don't make intention lines. You try to make it as natural as you can. Over here I'm starting to do the pear, and over here I want to be careful not to just make it a straight line, because the point of this is to show how light refracts when you're dealing with the glass. And sometimes you might even want to exaggerate that refraction. You want to make the object inside the glass shift more than it seems to be. It gives you more energy in it. Makes it seem like that. Makes it feel that the glass is really there. Right now I'm just drawing a sketch for the shadow. And over here I could have been much looser than I really am. But what's important here at this stage is the proportions and the placement. So if I was making a composition instead of just copying a photo, I would put in a lot more work into the composition. I would put in a lot more work to decide where my objects are going. But that is another video for another day, because you can get really deep into it. So over here I wanted to make make a shadow in the glass that's behind the vase, but I couldn't get dark enough, so I'm pulling out a more black not chocolate, it's more of a pastel pencil. Over here I'm basically making almost unnecessary detail. I fill it with all the shadows and everything. And now you get to see me flash just the paint I was using, which is Geneva paint. Very, very different a very different oil paint. It's very unique. It's a lot more runny, I guess. It just has a specific consistency. So over here I'm making a dull green to make the background green. So you saw that I picked up a little bit of blue, a little bit of the burn umber, and it got a little bit too dull, so I put in more of the yellow and blues to make a brighter green. And I think in this you can see in the mirror, in the glass, that I'm checking my paint. I'm holding it up against my picture, but it's just a tablet. I'm holding it against it, of course not touching the glass, but I'm holding it against it to check my colors, to make sure, yes, this is the color that matches the picture. Basically I'm just picking up a little bit of paint with my palette knife and holding it up against the screen. Now of course that's a little bit more layman's terms to just match your colors. It's not always just straightforward. Or like if you want to make an orange, yeah, you can put in yellow and red, but it's going to make a very vibrant orange. In the real world, there's not really vibrant colors at all. And even with this bright orange base, it's still very diluted. So now over here, I'm just cleaning my brush by dipping it in Gamsol and wiping it off with paper towel. Gamsol is really useful. It's basically a paint thinner. So I'm using it to clean my brushes. I'm watching this right now and I have no idea why I let all of this in. Just me cleaning my brush. I'm just making sure that it gets wet so I can just wipe it off with a paper towel, and making sure I get all the previous paint, because the previous was basically a reddish brown, yes. And I'm going into a green, which when you're dealing with a red, you don't really. When you're dealing with complementary colors, you don't want to mix your brushes. Unless you do, unless you want that effect where when you dip into the green with a little bit of red on your brush, it makes it dull. It dulls it down a lot. Now I'm making it a little bit darker. I'm making it a little bit darker because I wanted to start with the center. The center is a little bit more dark, and I go more yellow as I go out into the edges. Now you see that my hand is nowhere near to be found. It is holding it at the edge of the brush, at the edge of the handle. Just making sure I keep it loose. Make loose brush strokes and just follow the edge. I'm not even too worried to keep the edge. I can go over it if I want to. I can always bump it back with the color of the vase. So of course I'm keeping it loose, making sure that there's no repetition in my brush strokes. That creates a more abstract look, which I just find appealing. So I'm just speeding the rest of this because it's basically me just what I said before. I'm putting a little bit more yellow and I'm spreading it to the edges. And actually, you know what? I think I lied. I think I made the center more yellow and the outer edges more dark. So I'm guessing what I was thinking at this point was to make the center glow in a yellowish tint. Probably, most likely my intention was to make your eye go towards the bright spots, which is drawing you to the center. So over here, I'm going to start making my colors for the glass, which is red all around. However, I don't want to, of course, mix just one color. So what I do here is I start to make shades and tints of the red. So right now I'm making a really bright pink, but I'm matching it towards a very bright spot in the glass, and I'm gonna work my way down. Work my way down as in making the bright parts first, and then making separate piles of toned down red. So over here, I'm making a more purplish shadow, just to add some color. If I were to add black, that would just it would be monotone. It would be too monotone. And of course, laying it up so I can make it more gray. So over here, I added a little bit yellow and a little bit green. Green, what I said before, was the opposite. Was complementary of red. Adding that would make it more dull, very, very dull. So over here, I'm going more purple, so that I can have colors even in the shadow. It's not just a muted. It's not just a darker red. So probably on the left, I just saw a color that I needed. It was probably in a small spot, so that's why I made a small pile. And of course, I'm not just going to use these three colors. I'm going to maybe touch one up with more yellow, more white, more of the burn umber, and play around with it. But of course, each spot on the red glass has a different value, has a different hue. So I'm always going to change it. I'm just going to make three general colors that I'm going to use. One for dark, one's for midtones, one for more highlights. So going back to the canvas, I start off with the brightest parts of the cup. So over here, it's going to be the spot where it's just one layer of glass, and it's in front of a bright spot on the white cloth. Anything below that is going to be under its own shadow. And of course, I'm not really minding. I'm just putting down paint, and I'll work with it later. So you see my brush being a little bit more hesitant. That's because I'm also looking at my reference picture. I'm also trying to see where the paint is gonna, where this paint I'm holding is gonna go. Where else do I see it? Where else does it appear on the canvas? So for this video, I'm keeping almost all of the paint strokes in. What I'm taking out is me going back to my palette, making more colors, re-dipping my brush, and then making more colors again. Because that's what's, in my perspective, that's what's more important, just the colors instead of the shapes. So a lot of the artists that I admire, their pattern was to always check their colors and worry about shape later. Maybe I should have rephrased that. They worry about putting it on the canvas a little bit later. But their first instinct is to check their own color, make sure that it's true to life. And if they had a picture, which some of them didn't, they would match the color to the picture as close as they can get. Almost being exact. So on this, I'll be honest, on this video, when I was painting, I was watching, I think an anime, I can't remember exactly which one. Probably rewatching My Hero Academia for probably the third, fourth time. Just getting myself excited for the new season. I've actually been buying some of the manga, but I don't want to spoil it for myself either. So I only bought like three books of where I left off in the anime series, and it's just been absolutely, oh my god, isn't it exciting for next season? So over here, you actually saw me pick up my dark, which is of course a very dark purple, and now I'm just filling up the edge of the glass. I think I'll put in more detail later in that spot, but for now I'm just putting paint down. You see me here hesitating a little bit, so because I'm trying to find where else this color goes. And actually, when I put that light paint stroke down, I didn't really realize what my color value was. So I went back to my palette, decided what color exactly it was, and I'm trying to bring in more in. I'm trying to replace it. So over here, I'm thinking that I think that I blended it a little bit too much, because I over thought myself, and I thought that I had to go into it more, but I think I just made it a little bit too messy. See over here, now you're seeing me do more parallel lines. That's because I want to give more paint strokes. I want to be more intentional with my paint strokes over here. So right now I'm outlining a different part of the vase. But in the previous paint strokes, I did more parallel lines because I want to give the impression that the cup goes this way in a certain way. And that's how it was in the picture. You can see shadows that have a more horizontal stretch. So that's what I'm trying to simulate with some of the paint strokes. Over here, I think I picked up a real dark purple again, and I'm putting an outline to this part of the cup. But I'm being really hesitant with this color because it's the color that's going to give it a lot more depth, but it's also the color that can make it extremely flat if you overuse it. So over here you saw how I went to redip. The paint wasn't sticking to the canvas as much as I wanted to, so I basically reloaded my paintbrush with more paint so that when I just touch it exactly the way however thin I wanted to make it, it would just stick to the canvas. So just here, I stopped using that black and I started using just a dark purple to fill in all these spots where it's just empty color. There's no color. So even at this point, I'm still being very loose with my paint strokes. I'm not making. I'm keeping my grip far away. The only real time that I have a tight grip, that I'm really close to the bristles, is when I'm putting highlights or detail that I'm obsessing over. Probably. Over here, I think I took a little bit of a long pause. Usually, I try to cut this out, but I guess I got a little bit lazy. Usually, I keep saying usually, but this is just my second video on this channel. Yeah, I've done probably one other real video that was 20 minutes long. I think I finished editing that in about 2 hours. But of course, for this video, I had like 3-4 hours of footage that I tried my best to compress it down. But for this, I wanted to keep each brushstroke, and I think I made the mistake of watching and listening to music. Watching videos and listening to music while I was painting, because I didn't think that I would have to voice over, put music to this afterwards. And even now, what I'm doing is just actually on my computer, I'm listening to the music that are hopefully going to be in this video. So if you're listening, I'm listening with you. If you're listening to the music and you're enjoying it, I'm listening with you. I hope you enjoy it. I actually do like this. So over here, I'm stepping away from the glass because I think it was driving me a little bit insane. Mostly because it's a good thing, because I'm keeping myself from putting in too much detail too early. I have to remember that I'm just here to put down paint. I'm just here to put down the colors. So for this, I did want to make the vase a lot more orange than just a dull, because I found it hard to make a dull version for the glass. So what I'm doing is I'm making it brighter instead of trying to fidget with a dull version for behind the glass. Over here, I'm just obsessing over this edge. I shouldn't really have done that. I should have just put my paint down, and I would go back with a different paint for the center. So now over here, this is what I'm talking about. I should not have gone in with my hairline brush and drawn that highlight. Goodness, because I'm making this voiceover like a few weeks after I finished this. Probably a month ago is when I started this. Is when I painted this. So it's only now that I'm realizing that I'm working too much into this. What I should have done is, well, what I just said a second ago. Put down my darker paint and go back over it with my light color. For this Geneva paint, it works going over your previous paint. It's a little bit more easier. If you're using different kinds of paint, I would recommend putting in more linseed oil, a medium, or even the Gamsol that you saw before, to make it more thinner, so that when you put down the paint, you can actually paint somewhere else and go back to it with a lighter paint, and like I said, draw the highlights, or paint the highlights or paint the shadows to put in that definition, so that you're not obsessing over edges. You're not obsessing over, oh no, I covered my shadow up, I covered my highlight up with this bright paint, and now I have to be more careful next time or whatever. So over here, you saw me paint the shadow, and you might see from the video that it's more of a red shadow. I'm never trying to put in black to darken my colors. Maybe I put in a little bit black, but it's almost never natural black. It's almost never pure black. It's almost all the time either a combination of ultramarine blue and burnt umber, because those together actually do make black, a very nice black, as they say, I might say. But I'm either putting more ultramarine blue or more burnt umber to darken my color. And it all depends what I'm working with. If I'm working with, let's say, yellow, I'm probably going to use burnt umber to darken my color rather than ultramarine blue, because ultramarine blue is just going to make it more green. And if I don't want to change the hue, I might put more burnt umber to darken it and keep it the same hue that I want it to be. But of course, that it's not as clear cut as like, oh, if you're working with yellow, use burnt umber. If you're working with red, use blue. It's almost never clear cut, because of course this is painting. Almost nothing is clear cut. Even over here, I think I'm a little bit too delicate on paint strokes. I should just be slapping the paint on. But, learn from my mistakes. But there's another lesson to be learned here, just to take it slow. You're painting, you're having fun. None of this should be done in a rush. Of course, if you're doing it for a client, then absolutely rush. While you're watching this video, go paint and make the painting for your client. I'm just kidding. Over here, I think I made a very interesting color choice. I'm putting a little bit of green into this gray color. Just probably not even a hint. It's probably less than what you see on screen. A lot less green. It's probably just a gray than it is appearing to be green because of the red. Very interesting. So perhaps I found a color in my reference picture that was a grayish, that I thought it was green, so I just wanted to replicate that. And over here I'm going over the refraction of the vase with more red to transition. But you see here that I'm not worrying too much about the edge of it. If even I went over it straight up. Because I don't care about it. It doesn't need to. Especially over here, it should really be more abstract because it's behind glass. A curving glass too. So over here I'm painting back the rim again, and you notice that it's actually a different color than what I painted just above it, which I was trying to paint the rim with a more black color, but over here I'm using deep red. It's basically because of what I said before, where you shouldn't paint what you think you see. If you see a rim and you see a color, one specific color on the rim, that one specific color isn't going to appear along the whole rim. There's going to be almost an infinite amount of colors, but probably three main colors that go along that rim. Highlight, shadow, probably mid-tone in just that one spot, in just that one rim. And you have to make sure that you use the highlights where you need to be, where they need to be. You got to make sure where the darks need to be. Now over here, I think I'm going to restate the edge. Or not, I'm making another interesting move, putting this almost yellowish green, which is probably another color I saw in the reference picture. And of course I'm not being that careful with my edge, because I can restate it in. And of course, you still see that I'm hesitating because I'm deciding, should I stop here or is there another spot where I can paint this in? This is probably just a darker red. Now I start moving on with the pear. Over here, I think I saw it as a combination of the red mixed with the green, or it's like a yellowish green for the pear. So what I went with was basically a dull orange. That even now it looks like it looks more reddish than it was. But I really shouldn't be this careful with it. I should just put it on and then push it to wherever I want later. But who knows? Maybe I could have been distracted with the show that I was watching. So here I thought that my edges, my transitions were too harsh, so I'm just rubbing. It could have been very much been a dry brush. What I'm rubbing in to make it transition better. And over here, there's this very pale gray orange. This is what more I would like to see. So just slap that on and worry about it later. Even now, I'm catching myself that I'm working it too much. So I think I went back into it to redo my colors. And then at this point, I was basically saying to myself, I gotta move on. I'm focusing too much on this. This assignment is due tomorrow. This is probably what I said in my head. Over here, while I was painting, I was making a decision. You know what? I'll just go over this stem. It's not that complicated to refine again. And this center is too dark. I have to go back into it with a bright yellow green. So again, you see here that this shadow for the pear is very dark, very dull. It's very, very dirty. Very, very dirty, which I actually find appealing. And later, right here, I'm stroking the edge so I can make it softer. And you would think that it will get darker as it goes down, but over here I'm painting a little bit more light because of the light refracting from the surface below. And this part is really critical. You see a little spot that has a little bit more red. I saw that the pear had a more red color as it got close to the glass, to the red glass, because of the light refracting off of it and landing onto the pear. So it's a bit more red over here. So that's what I'm putting in right now. And apparently I thought to myself, this is not enough red. More red, more refraction. I want people to see this, to know that I put detail in this, and to appreciate it. Because that's what feels good, doesn't it? If you put in a lot of work into a specific detail, people are more likely to notice, but it still feels good if somebody does. The shape of a pear is really interesting. You can get away with making it more blocky than with other objects. You can make it really blocky, and it still has that. If it has that general shape and the correct colors, it still looks like a pear. My professor in college was always saying that if the way to succeed with drawing or painting fruit is to make it look delicious, as delicious as possible. If your mind tells you, yeah, I want to eat that, you succeeded. You got to stop painting it. Don't mess around with it. It's good. So over here, I think I'm deciding to start drawing shadows. Over here, I'm painting more with black, making it really dark. Just so that right as it transitions to the object, it really pops. I'm deciding where's another spot that I can put this black. And I saw that on the cup it has some black parts. Some very, very dark parts too. I'm being more careful over here just because I want to get it right the first time and not have to bother with it next time. Perhaps I was being late on this assignment too. Right now, I'm thinking about that. Well, the reason why I put black into this, and I think I could say just about anything just to make up bullshit. But in reality, I think I just saw that it was black. I got tired, and I just made a more brownish black, and just start painting it in. Over here, this is where I looked at my sketch a little bit more, because I wanted to follow the curves of the fabric that was making up the surface more. Now, of course, this isn't always this is even black, pure black as well. I'm making this black from burnt umber and ultramarine blue. So even if I do have equal parts for ultramarine blue and burnt umber, even if I do have equal parts, I'm still human, so I'm not going to get it totally right. So when I'm creating it, it's actually a good thing when it's me doing it, because I'm not going to get it right, and it's always going to have a little bit more blue, a little bit more burnt umber. That gives it more, it's less dull, makes it less dull. If I were to get it, if I were to buy pure black, it would it's a different pigment, because it's just pure black. But if I were to do that, to use it in all my color mixing, I'll probably use it too much, and that would just decrease the value, to decrease the overall effect of the contrast of the lights and darks. Over here, I did put this black part. Later, I think I would regret it, because I didn't work on it as much as I should, so it kind of turns out to be an eyesore. Over here, I'm deciding if I should put this black right here. And I think I just decided to just rub it in a little bit. Not even redip my brush, just rub in what I had left on the brush. I think I outlined it a little bit too much here. So going back to my palette, I'm now going to be mixing the cloth for mostly my foreground. And you notice that I picked up a little bit of the pink that I made before, and I'm taking just a tiny amount of that paint, and I'm going to mix it in with my white. Now on camera, it doesn't really appear that vibrant, so it looks like it's just all pure white. Even the shadows on it aren't appearing that much, just because of the camera that I'm using, which is my phone. So I think I took a pause here to find and cut a piece of the yellow. And again, just taking tiny amounts, because on my reference it was a very tiny amount Not so much that I was a tiny amount away from white, from pure white. It's just that this paint has a very strong pigment. So any tiny amount that I do put on, I have to be any amount I do put on, I have to be very careful. I want to inch it towards that, towards the color that I want. Because you can add a lot of pink into this, and to kind of redo it, what would you have to do is basically put more white into it and use up more paint. So over here I'm pretty much done, and I have the color that I need. On screen I just flash in a picture of it that hopefully gives you more perspective on how it actually looked to me. Putting it on, it's pretty transparent to the camera. From my display, what I'm watching from, it's really pink, which is exactly what I wanted. And I'm going to be filling up all the highlighted parts of the fabric, but I'm not going to leave any bare canvas, because the bare canvas is just too, well, yeah, it's just almost as white as the paper is. So of course I'm gonna cover it all up. Even if it does match, I'm still gonna cover it up. Over here I'm restating the edge as well as putting the background. Put in the foreground cloth, I mean. And I'm actually a little bit ignoring the shapes that I put in. The shapes of the sketch that I put in. The horizon I made was a little bit different from the original. Actually, I think the whole cloth was different from the reference picture, just because I trusted myself with creating an abstract cloth, but I did leave that long fold on the left because I just thought it looked really appealing. And over here you see me trying to incorporate this shadow, but I really shouldn't have. I should have just left it out. I should have just taken it off. I probably should have went over this black part. But I do like the colors that I picked out for the cloth. It's a good mix of grades. So right now this looks more like a lavender, a very, very dull lavender, but still. And towards the bottom it gets more pink, more orange, more pale. So I'm still doing that transition where I put duller colors in the back and brighter colors in the front, just to create eye movement, just to create a sense of movement, so that the whole cloth doesn't all look the same. Over here I'm starting on the left side now. Still with the same color, still with the lavender color, I guess, more in the background. And now I'm going back to restate the edge of it. Over here, I think I should have done it a little bit more soft. I think I should have made the edge more soft. Which is actually kind of a big mistake with a lot of painters. They don't make the edges. Even actually with artists, with good artists, I always see that they always feather out their edges. They make it very soft. They make it very, very rounded. Not rounded, but there's more color mixture in between the bright edge and the dark edge. Because, well, that's how we see the world. Look at any edge, and it's not always hard, a hard edge. It's more soft. You see a transition between them. So that's why I always think about when I'm painting is to always make my edges soft. To always make them have a little bit more of a transition. Even over here, this long black stroke, I'm blending into this lavender color, all from along the whole edge. It's gonna be more fuzzy from even close up to further away. Over here, I'm being a little bit too careful with the shadow, but I think I just wanted to keep my color and keep putting this color in different places. I don't think I mentioned that this canvas was a paper canvas. I think 11 by 9. To double check. I think my dog is going to have a fit in a moment. She's getting very angsty for some reason. Probably because I'm making this voiceover and just taking a long while. I'm trying my best to keep this in one take, just for time management. Definitely in the future I'm going to. But actually, this is a good opportunity to look over the whole video, making sure that there's no mistakes. I actually did caught a mistake where I left out a big chunk of time where I was just looking for my paint or something. Perhaps changing episodes of my anime. But I accidentally left that in, which wasted about like 2 minutes of just nothing. Just the camera staring at the canvas. Now you see me put in like some random darker strokes. This is where I imagine the folds are. So my next step is to go back with a lighter color and painting the complement of that. Painting in where the fold turns over and turns into light. Turns into the light and makes a highlight. And right now I think I'm gonna start redefining this edge as I get closer. In fact, I almost don't. Yeah, I'm still going around and still putting in this color, this bluish color that I want to place down. So over here I am being a little bit more careful. Just because I guess I didn't want to use up more time that I already did. Over here I did go over the pair a little bit, and I'm fairly certain that I didn't fix it afterwards, which I think is fine. This is just a small pigment. It's kind of almost fun to see, to leave imperfection for people to find. So now how about we take a look back and just look at the other aspects of this painting. Look at the glass. It's almost, it looks fairly like a mess. Almost a mess of color. But if you squint your eyes, turn your head a little bit, it looks more or less like a red see-through glass. That has a lot of refractions, has a lot of dark parts next to the highlights. I especially right now like the pear, where it has very natural looking colors with the refracted lights coming from the red cup. And over here now you see me going back into the shadow and softening it up a lot. Over here I think I put in more dark to represent a fold. Down here, I think I put in a few dark spots that I didn't mean to, so I went over it with more gray color. Now, of course, this isn't the most exciting video, but I think it's just important to see all the paint strokes in one sitting. Of course, this is all squashed down into 1 hour and 30 minutes, and it took about 4 hours for me. Maybe it seems like a lot longer because I was watching YouTube videos I was missing out, taking a lot of breaks post everything. But that's just me when I paint. I take it slow. I haven't taken any commissions or any clients for painting, just because I know that I'm not good enough. I know that I can progress further and be able to put my best foot forward when I do accept a client. Over here I'm still being a little bit too afraid of this edge. I have to soften it at one point anyways. I'm not even sure if I do. Maybe if I don't, that's a mistake. I think I skipped over placing down a bluish hue there. Over here, I think that was a dry brush I was working with. Yeah, it was too dry, and I wanted to put a sharp red line over here. So I'm going back and I'm putting in a more sharp shadow. Being very intentional to make it as straight as I can. And I do notice that it kind of misses the edges, the rim of the cup. So I go back to make the rim larger. So this is kind of what I mean by when you're painting, you can push and pull edges over here, and basically pushing the edge out to meet that line that's coming in. So I can make it one smooth transition from rim to edge. Now over here, I think I am painting in the shadow, or I guess it is the light refracting off the cup and into the cloth. So I'm putting this color of the cloth along the edge. And over here, I think I went a little bit lighter. I think now I'm starting to remember what I was thinking. Over here, I saw a shape of the cup that was casting on the white cloth. It was a kind of a weird shape because it was following the curvature of the cloth. What it basically is the light going through the cup and landing onto the cloth, making the cloth appear more pink, more red. And this is what I'm doing right now. I'm going back over and painting the pink parts. Over here, you see me kind of avoid the shadow. That's because I'm going to go over that part with a different color. It's not going to all be pink, of course. So over here, I decided to go just a little bit darker, enough to have a similar effect. I think I should have been more dark. Over here, I think I should have gone as dark as the previous shadow that was there before. And you know what? I think I just did. Imagine that, I read my own mind. But you know, I think it's still not as effective because it's not curving as much as it should. I'm practically ignoring the folds that I was trying to represent. And over here I'm just restating this edge. dog is eating my hand if I don't let her show it. For a course, because she's entitled to eat it. Over here, I think what I was doing is to an attempt to make more curve. Oh yeah, okay. Now I remember. This is supposed to represent the rim of it, the inner rim of the cup. Because the light, I remember on the reference picture, I saw that it had a very dark spot. I was trying to figure out what part of the cup it was. This is when I realized that it was the rim. It was the rim that was casting a shadow that was darker because of how thicker it was at the rim. Excuse me. Shush. It's right there, okay? So over here I'm basically putting more detail that I think the cup will make the cup look better. Putting more detail on the rim of the cup. Excuse me, man. What do you want? Okay, don't stress. So right now I'm putting more highlights into... No, this is basically the highlight part. You can get a little bit too trigger happy, as I think I did over here. Right now I'm putting highlights on the pear, and what I'm going to do next is I'm basically going to go back into it with a dry brush, with a dry brush when I took off the paint. I'm going to just rub out the highlight, because when you're drawing highlights, you have to be very careful on harder objects that have a hard surface. They're gonna refract the highlights more sharply than others. So over here the pear is real. It's not like a plastic cup. It's not a plastic pear. So the pear refracts the highlight a lot more smoother than if it was plastic or made out of something else. It refracts the highlight a lot more softer than the cup. Since the cup is glass tends to refract the light as it is. So if it's a hard light source, it's going to be a hard highlight. Over here I put another highlight on the stem, and I'm rubbing it out again. So going back to all my highlights and making it more diffused, making it more natural, because if I just leave it like here, it does have a certain appeal, but I want this to be as true to life as I can. And actually, what I should have done is I should have chose the yellow for the highlights on the pears and the orange base. I should have picked something more yellow to represent the highlight. This video is just basically me putting more detail, stuff that I think I should have changed, and but at this point I'm practically done. And here is the final image. It is a little bit less vibrant than I have to take a picture, but it still shows everything that I needed to show. the soft it's what's most important is the soft edges here, the difference of colors in between all the objects, and each object having its own shadow color, and it's, well, I actually failed to make colored highlights, but this is what I came out to do. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of this. Just happy painting. Make sure you drink a lot of water, because it took a lot of water for this, and don't stress about it. Great. Happy painting.